Short Treks, as the title suggests, is a series of shorts set in the Star Trek universe. They were filmed sometime around the late 2010s, around the time that Star Trek Discovery Seasons 1 and 2 were filmed, and this video is my review of those short treks. There are 10 in total, and I'm going vaguely in order from the one I like most to the one I like least, but not completely strictly about that. The one I like least is The Trouble with Edward. I guess I'm going to get a bit ranty about that. That's going to be at the end of the video, but I'm going to start with Q&A. Q&A is set on the Enterprise. It's Spock's first day on the Enterprise. He's an ensign. Number One greets him, and they get stuck in a turbo lift together. At first, they're talking about professional things. They're onboarding him. It's first day stuff a new employee needs to know, but as would naturally happen in a situation like this, the conversation ebbs and flows and moves on to different topics, and I'm not really going to spoil it, but I would say one of the problems I've had with Strange New Worlds is how badly they used Rebecca Romjin. She's a great actress, and in Q&A she shows how good she is. She feels like a 3D person, she's a professional, but also shows her human side as well. I guess I put this at the top of the list because it's a big palate cleanser after seeing how bad Strange New Worlds treated the characters in the show. Also, we see Spock, we see a bit of his human side, we see him smiling, something he did in Strange New Worlds but I feel was handled extremely badly. If we look at the original series, there's plenty of examples of Spock smiling, of spontaneously showing emotion, and in Q&A, Spock feels like Leonard Nimoy Spock. He doesn't feel like New Trek Spock. For me, Q&A is a really nice character piece, and a small glimpse of what could have been with Strange New Worlds, of how they could have made it good if they'd really paid attention to the characters. Number 2 for me is Calypso. Calypso is set 1,000 years in the future on an abandoned USS Discovery, so I guess, considering the time jump, that's now the 41st century. Discovery has been abandoned in a nebula. The computer finds an escape pod and rescues the occupant of the pod, who spends his time on the ship, and the two of them develop this really interesting relationship with each other. The main actor is very good at taking the situation in his stride, and I really like the actress who plays the voice of the computer. Having watched Discovery Season 3, I think it's the same actress who does the voice, and it feels like an extension, it feels like another version of the computer from Discovery Season 3. So Calypso is a really nice little story. Number 3 for me is Ask Not. So Ask Not has kind of a Lower Decks vibe. I don't mean the cartoon, definitely not the cartoon, I mean the Next Generation Season 7 episode. So there's a cadet who's in a space station under attack, and she's given a task to do, and it's to guard a particular prisoner, and we see how she handles that situation. It doesn't connect to anything else. It's not a character I remember seeing anywhere else, but like Calypso, it's a nice little self-contained story. After Ask Not, we have The Brightest Star. This is Saru's origin story. We saw a lot of this in Discovery, I think maybe Season 2, I'm not sure. It's about how Saru engineers first contact with the Federation and left his planet. Also stars Michelle Yeoh. As a side note, I think casting Michelle Yeoh and then killing her in the first couple of episodes is one of the dumbest mistakes I've seen in any television or movie franchise. At least they had the good sense to bring her back. It's nice to see original Giorgio there. I also liked the way that this short dealt with the use of the universal translator. So you hear Saru and Giorgio speaking English and also their own language. So this one connects quite strongly to Star Trek Discovery, so that was quite nice. After that, The Escape Artist. This is starring Rainn Wilson as Harry Mudd, who was in Star Trek Discovery, I think the first season. Harry Mudd is also an original series character. The plot's quite simple, so a bounty hunter captures Harry Mudd, takes him to a Federation ship, but things aren't what they seem. I liked this. It feels like Rainn Wilson is doing a version of Harry Mudd, which is recognisable as the original series character, though the escape artist is fun. Then there's Ephraim and Dot. This is an animated one about a tardigrade and a robot on the Enterprise. It's very cute. I enjoyed it. There's some original series references. That was fun. Then there's Children of Mars. This one's interesting in that the writers seem to be trying to tell the story with as little dialogue as they possibly can. There's a little at the beginning, at the end, but mostly it's silent. There's some really cool makeup on a couple of the characters. I didn't really understand the references in there. Apparently this is relating to Picard. I've only watched season 3 of Picard, so I didn't quite get what was going on there. It was an interesting experiment. Number 8 for me is Runaway. Runaway is set on Discovery. Tilly finds someone who is hiding on the ship and apparently doesn't tell anyone on the ship. There's surely some security implications of finding a runaway, but anyway, it's a character who appears at the end of Discovery season 2. I liked the character. I'd liked to have seen more of her in the show. And then there's The Girl Who Made the Stars. This is animated, features Michael Burnham as a young girl, and her father is telling her a nighttime story. It's a nice enough story. Again, apparently tied into Discovery somewhere, but by itself, I don't see the relevance. I don't see the context without the main show. But it's a nice story as it is. And that brings us to the final short trek, The Trouble with Edward. And I really don't like this at all. The plot is someone on the Enterprise gets promoted to captain of a science ship. And when she moves over to her new ship, she finds a particular member of staff who isn't very good at his job. He can't do basic things like operate a pad. He doesn't understand the moral implications of the work that he's doing. And the new captain decides that Edward has to go. And this is fine as it is. Sometimes people are unsuited to a job that they're in for whatever reason, and they need to go. I have no problem with that. I've worked in jobs, and occasionally I've been a manager of people who just shouldn't have been there and had to be helped to leave in the most respectful way possible. Now, the idea of people being good at their jobs is integral to the Star Trek franchise. So the idea of what you do when someone isn't, I think, is actually a good basic concept. But what I've got a problem with is the way that she does it. So she can't treat him with basic respect. Even if someone's incompetent, even if they're an idiot, all you need to do is sit down and listen to them, let them have their say, and they'll feel much happier about leaving under those circumstances. On one level, that's the basic human thing to do. On the second, it's in your self-interest to remove the person in a way that doesn't damage the company. So I am going to kind of spoil what happens here. So if you haven't watched it, watch it first and then come back. So Edward is experimenting on tribbles and he's doing things he really shouldn't be. So the captain orders him to stop his research and move over to another department. But after the way that the captain speaks to him, which is really rude, really unpleasant and disrespectful, Edward decides to ignore her and he's going to continue the research anyway. So he genetically alters the tribbles, so they start breeding extremely rapidly. They start breeding to the point where the ship is destroyed because there are so many tribbles. So because the captain was unable to treat Edward with respect, he decided to sabotage the ship. In the final scene, the captain is sat in review with the Starfleet admirals, and the admirals say, "Hey, what happened?" And the captain says, "Edward is stupid." So the captain is unable to reflect on her actions. So I understand it's just a short story, but this is anti-Star Trek. This is characters who can't pay basic respect to humans, and because of that, the ship ended up being destroyed. So that's short treks. I really liked some of them. Some of them were interesting experiments, and the last one I discussed was awful. Thanks for watching.